Hey, I'm Tracy Clark-Flory.
I'm Amanda Monty. Welcome to Dire Straits.
You just survived Thanksgiving. You might be surviving the onslaught of holiday commercials and Hallmark movies starring big city career women who are reminded of the true meaning of Christmas after falling in love with a rugged small town hunk in a plaid button-up.
Maybe you're also cruising the sales, checking all the Christmas lists, planning the next holiday party or dinner, and feeling a little overwhelmed. You might be thinking, all this holiday stuff has a certain dire straightness to it.
It's time to talk about holiday labor and heterosexuality. I think we all know that women tend to do a disproportionate amount of work at this time of year, whether it's cooking Thanksgiving dinner, buying holiday gifts, or sending out festive family cards. But we're interested in really breaking down the nature of that work and questioning the myths that it serves. We'll look at how everything from Santa Claus to our own childhood memories of holiday magic serve to erase women's unpaid labor and romanticize women's self-sacrifice and domestic exploitation as the source of love, care, and security. We are not, however, total feminist Scrooges. We'll also talk about the overlooked importance of holiday labor and what it would look like to reimagine the holidays as something other than an advertisement for marriage and the nuclear family.
Speaking of unpaid labor, we need your support. This is a free episode, but paid subscribers are the only reason we can do this work.
And speaking of holiday gifts, have you considered giving the gift of this podcast to yourself, to a friend, to a partner? For just $8 a month, you or a loved one will get all of our episodes, no paywalls ever. You'll also get access to special bonus content, our subscriber chat, and more over on our Substack. Upgrade now at direstraitspod.com. That's straits with a GH. Thank you so much for making this podcast possible. If you listen to our episode on the fifth shift, you already know that women in hetero relationships often perform more than their fair share of domestic labor. This is not only true when it comes to cooking, cleaning, laundry, and taking care of the kids, but also the emotional, social, and administrative labor women perform, especially in the context of married hetero parenthood. Here are just a couple quick stats for you.
Okay, so on average, women spend twice as much time on childcare and housework as men, and married women spend the most time on household labor, more than their husbands and other women. We talked about this on our episode on the fifth shift. Economist Corinne Lowe, who just came out with a book called Having It All, argues that traditional gender roles in straight couples encourage men to do less household labor, and that men tend to do weekly or monthly like grunt work tasks, so taking out the trash or landscaping work, but women tend to do hourly work like feeding, 3 meals a day and caregiving. Less than 7% of couples share housework equally, according to a UK study. And lots of other studies have suggested that men tend to think they are doing more work than they really are. And then, of course, we've seen a lot of research in recent years that has documented the mental load and, the invisible labor that women perform, from household to-do lists to gift giving, which we'll talk about, to remembering birthdays and planning family visits.
So that's the baseline year round. Shit is already bad, and then the holidays show up. There aren't a lot of great stats on this front, and I will say that there is vanishingly little research around Hanukkah and Kwanzaa compared to Christmas and Thanksgiving, but here is what I found.
Okay, so it looks like a poll in 2021 found that 48% of women did most or all of the Thanksgiving cooking compared to 25% of men. Yeah. That tracks. Another small scale study found that women are much more engaged with Christmas gift shopping than men. They start shopping earlier and spend more time shopping. Researchers have found that people tend to see it as women's work. You know, something that I think about a lot is like all of these studies that just make me think, did we really need a study to demonstrate this reality? Like, women have been telling you.
Yeah, in many ways, these numbers actually seem kind of low or conservative, you know, based off of what we see every day in our own lives. We know what day-to-day heteronormative life tends to look like, and the holidays just supercharge those disparities, especially since the holidays and Christmas in particular are tied up in these visions of heteronuclear family bliss, visions that tend to be facilitated by the wife or, you know, the mom.
But it feels like we're only just starting to have a cultural conversation about who really creates, you know, all this holiday magic and to question the purpose that all serves. You know, I hope there are no kids listening for a variety of reasons, obviously. But let's just get this out of the way. You know, the holiday magic is not created by an old white guy in a red suit.
No, it's not. And that magic is work that is done by someone, right? So
I wonder who.
Before we get into what that work really looks like, I want us to pause for a moment and acknowledge that when you're a kid, that magic can feel really magical. So, Amanda, I want you to recall your childhood memories of holiday magic. What were those like? And I'm talking about those memories as they were formed back then, trying to remove your current, like, looking back as an adult narratives, because we will get to that.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so without immediately psychoanalyzing myself.
Yes, please, if you can.
That is very challenging, but I will do my best. I will say, like, if I really try to put myself back into that place of being, you know, a little kid, I was so swept up in holiday magic and in this sense of family. And partly that's because it was a time when I really felt a sense of family and specifically like a connection to my mom, who was a single mom who worked a lot. You know, my parents divorced when I was in second grade, but before that, they briefly, you know, like made some good money. We lived in this, you know, big house in the Hollywood Hills, and my mom would throw these elaborate parties, or I remember like one Thanksgiving party and maybe a New Year's party. So in my mind, there were a lot of them, but maybe there were only two, you know, but we would have like matching dresses that she got, I'm sure, from some like bougie catalog. You know, my sister and I would like have our matching version that matched my mom's more like beautiful, probably sexier version of the dress. And she had on like, you know, beautiful gold earrings and shoes. And there was always like good food and decorations. My grandmother, too, on my dad's side, always handmade us Christmas ornaments that we got every year. So that's like a really cherished memory. I still have a lot of those. And I don't remember a lot of that time with the parties because it was a really short time in my childhood. But after my parents got divorced, and one of the reasons they split was because they had like squandered all their money, you know, our financial status totally changed. So I remember the holidays really being this weird mix of financial anxiety, which I, you know, came to awareness of more later, and like carnival, right? So like my parents would just spend money they didn't have. And like my mom still sometimes threw parties, like if she had a good job for a little bit. I remember we had this amazing Halloween party after the divorce. And in the garage, she set up like, you know, like spaghetti and peeled grapes, and we'd like touch them like through like a curtain. And there was, I'm sure, drugs and booze moving around. And it was like a very LA, you know, party, but it was like in this little condo that we had. And I wouldn't have known then, I don't think, that there was drugs and booze, you know. But I will also say, like, we spent a lot of holidays with my cousins who were like about the same age. We would go to my grandparents' condo in Palm Springs. And I have really warm, distinct memories of those holidays. Like we would write and perform skits. We went back east once.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like a beautiful like white Christmas because that's where some of my cousins lived. And so we just had this like really great sense of being like this big, quirky, happy, extended family. And I will try not to start introducing my adult perspective, but like my mom's family had a lot of issues, and so like we, during the holidays, it was this time when we sort of like performed normalcy and like a wealth that we didn't have, but also just felt that sense of connection and belonging that we really struggled to find the rest of the year. So that's kind of my childhood perspective of the holidays. But what about you?
Yes. Interesting. I mean, it definitely gave me that like warm and cozy feeling in my stomach, like listening to you describe, like, especially like the skits and plays. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it's like sounds so wholesome and lovely. Fun. Yeah. I mean, mine, immediately what comes to mind is that my mom would decorate with these small porcelain Christmas houses that she collected. It was like this Dickens-esque village. You know about these, I gather?
Yes, my mom totally also had little houses, which
little
I think she got from my grandmother.
I think that there was like some kind of like tradition established with my grandmother on my mom's side. I think it's like kind of where she got the idea. But there were like cobblestone streets that she would like roll out and kids ice skating on a frozen lake, and all of it was sprinkled with fake snow. And I thought it was the most magical thing I had ever seen as a kid. And I remember so vividly like Christmas Eve, like peering into these little buildings and imagining the stories and unfolding inside. I loved it. I feel like I even like wrote stories about like the families living in these houses, So it was just like definitely linked. It was like linked to that sense of like creativity and imagination and magic, certainly. But my parents always hosted a Christmas Eve gathering with their circle of friends, most of them women, who we referred to as the Berkeley family, because they were our chosen family. And I think it's important to note for our purposes, especially, that several of those friends were lesbians. Another one of my mom's friends was straight and had decided against motherhood. So all of these women stood somehow and to varying degrees on the edges of appropriate womanhood. Also, most of my parents' friends were Jewish, and my parents were atheists or agnostics, depending on the day. And so the Christmasness of it all was held very, very loosely. Also, a lot of the time, the adults were like sneaking out back to smoke a joint. So just to complicate a scene that otherwise feels very straight in all senses.
Oh, yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. My parents were definitely high at like every Christmas, I would guess. I actually think a lot about that, like since I've become a parent, like how wasted most parents are during the holidays. The religion thing is interesting though, too. There was a time when I was really young that we went to church, but like only for Christmas and Easter, we were like those kind of people. Lots to unpack there. But then as I got older, my parents like didn't believe in any of that anymore. And so we had a different relationship with the holidays. But I remember that like changing over time and like kind of studying that as a kid.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. The one thing I left out was the food, which is like a huge piece of the holidays. My mom would make these incredible spreads of food. Often it was the Midwest comfort food that she had grown up with. So like fried chicken and potato casseroles with a lot of cheese, that kind of thing. And it was awesome. But sometimes she would also go all out and do like a crab feast. That was always my favorite. And for dessert, she would make her most perfect brownies, which she dusted with powdered sugar and served with homemade whipped cream. They were so good. But Christmas morning was the coziest of all. It was presents and stockings, of course. But also my mom would get this frosted cinnamon bread from a local bakery here in Berkeley that she would toast up and butter. And it would be like this first thing kind of breakfast while we were opening presents. And the smell of that cinnamon toast was Christmas to me. So I guess I would say the magic of Christmas for me as a kid was really food and chosen family.
Oh my gosh, the food is everything. And I know we're going to talk more about, what goes into that and what our traditions are now. But I am curious, like looking back, do you see any of these memories differently? Like, especially when it comes to sort of gendered roles and labor around all of that holiday magic. Like, was there anything that you were not seeing at the time when you were a kid that you kind of see more clearly now?
Yes, definitely. So my mom died 12 years ago, and it was really the first time that I truly saw how much she had done during the holidays and beyond. I knew that she was carrying Christmas, and I saw that it was kind of her thing, but I didn't really realize what that had meant until she was gone and until Christmas changed entirely. So the invisible labor was made visible only by her literal disappearance. And that was one of those major shockwaves after her death, was realizing oh, Christmas is never going to be the same. She was doing all of that. And, she also was doing Thanksgiving. She would arrange Thanksgiving for my dad's side of the family since they're local. She was really this major force in making sure that everyone got together, that we maintained those relationships. She fought for that connection to his family. And, another thing too is after she died, I noticed that my dad's sisters really kind of stepped up to help fill her role, which was obviously very gendered. I have a visual of I think the first Thanksgiving after she died, his sisters in our kitchen, doing everything, picking up all the slack and making it happen. Also, Christmas presents, that was her thing. My dad has had his areas of expertise. If it was a video game related thing or something related to technology, he would get it. That, he would own it. And so certain years it would be oh, I really wanted a Nintendo 64. That's the one I remember. And he was in charge of getting it. Although I think at that point it was sold as Santa, but Santa had gotten me that. But so, they but mostly she was on top of that. And she took a great amount of pleasure in getting me gifts that I would like. She really engaged in that with a lot of empathy and love and thoughtfulness and care.
I am so curious, how did that feel? To see that invisible labor, drop away and be made visible, as you said. I imagine that was probably pretty painful, obviously. Yeah. But I wonder, did it bring up sort of anger or just what did that feel like to kind of suddenly understand that?
Yeah, I mean, it brought up grief because I've always said that what I didn't realize about losing my mom ahead of time, I didn't anticipate, was that there would be this double loss. And it really was the loss of her as a person, being able to talk to her, be with her. But there was also the loss of my vision of our family that she had tied together. You know what I mean? And so it was in so many ways, the idea that I had of this nuclear unit had so completely changed and was inaccessible. I kind of thought that it was just going to be okay, mom's sick, we're losing mom, but I'll have my dad and it'll just be like the two of us from that triad, and and we'll just be missing a person. But instead it was just this like complete and utter shift in a way that I hadn't been able to anticipate. And honestly, so much of that has to do with a very, with gendered labor and the way that like truly Christmas came to stand. I think Christmas was one of the ways that I like really started to feel that most intensely, because it's so symbolic. Like it's so symbolic of the happy family and of that coziness and that sense of security. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've had to talk to my dad a little bit over the years since about what like Christmas gifts mean to me and what this time of year means to me, because he does not share that feeling. And so it had to be that kind of communication around like that symbolism that she clearly got and was working to uphold. It's actually been like one of the biggest, most symbolic sort of places of her absence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, like just in terms of what you're saying about how mothers create that sense of family and how the holidays do that as well. My former husband, like when he lost his mom, I remember, the holidays being really hard. I mean, they still really are, because his mom was also like the arbiter of the holidays of Christmas. But it's also making me think about what I know we'll get into, which is like how that feels for us now to be mothers, who are also sort of creating that sense of family and, that sense of magic and joy like this time of year.
Yes, totally. I mean, so what about you though? Like, how do you see that childhood holiday magic differently? What's the adult perspective looking back?
Yes. Well, now that we've psychoanalyzed you, yes. Now my
my God. I know. I was like, God, I didn't expect this to get so dark. And I'm like, I'm almost crying. This is like,
I know. I'm getting so emotional already.
It gets me every time. Like, this is the thing. Christmas gets me every time. It's like, I feel like such a dum-dum at this time of year, because I'm like, every year I'm like, it's fine. It's Christmas. And then it's like, it's here. And then I'm like, I'm a fucking mess. Like, and it's like every year this happens, but somehow it's like really hard to let it sink in. And I think that's partly like these ideas that we have about Christmas are like stand at such odds to the reality of like the emotional complexity of this holiday. So yes, like please feel free to cry.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And I'll talk about this later in the episode too, but like, I think the holidays have a lot to do with grief for so many people. But well, like I said, there were a lot of sort of hidden adult struggles in my mom's family of origin. There was addiction. There was also just like interpersonal cruelty. There was a lot of like financial strain. And that was all sort of like complicated and made so much worse by like sort of this sense of striving, like class striving for sure. Without going into like my whole, like my first book and my family backstory, like my grandparents sort of like had status and money in Hollywood, and then they like lost it all, and like my grandfather was like working at a grocery store, and like a very similar thing happened to my parents. So my family always has this very kind of like, classist and frankly like waspy idea of the holidays, and also who they should be all year and like what a family looks like. And that just is like ramped up during the holidays. But we were not that family for most of my childhood. My parents were divorced. We were pretty broke, like most of my childhood. So that was all there. But my mom was also really thoughtful about gifts, and she loved to have good food and like a nicely set table. And, part of that was the class stuff, and part of it was just, she liked to have that sense of belonging and to feel like we were the perfect family, however like flawed we looked outwardly, that she really never had growing up. So I think that desire is still very present, like in my family of origin now. Like I deal with it every holiday season, and it has definitely created some pressures and a lot of conflict. you know, my dad, like, he lost his father really young, and he's an only child. So, you know, on his side, it was like a very small family, but my mom was really the holder of the holidays. And because she had three siblings and they had kids, like, that's where that kind of cousin holiday vibe came about. And so even though our family was pretty dysfunctional, we, you know, got together during the holidays and the cousins played together, and it gave us this sense of kind of like tribalism. And again, just this sense of family that we had a really hard time feeling outside of the holidays. You know, and again, like Christmas morning was always really special with my mom. Like she made it so magical, like the stuffed stockings. And after my parents divorced, you know, having a single mom who couldn't always afford to do those things, that really changed things. But she always found a way. Like even if she had to go to like the dollar store and buy a bunch of crap and wrap it all individually, like she always found a way to make it feel magical. I don't remember like much of what my dad did during the holidays. Like he does not cook at all. I know we had some Christmas mornings at his place, but yeah, the real core memories when I was young were in that big extended family environment or just with my mom and my sister.
Yeah. It sounds like your mom did a lot to hold the holidays. So I'm curious, did that influence how you approach the holidays as a mom, as a parent?
Totally. I mean, I think it's something I'm thinking about all the time. You know, like I want to be present with my kids all year long, but the holidays are like this time where we really do sort of come back together and like check in, you know, but just in terms of like the traditions, you know, I do all the stuff that she did. Like I do the little houses. We have the little houses. Ours are like from Target, where I don't shop anymore, but they do have, they used to have really great holiday stuff. You know, we do like the mantle with like bottle brush trees and like, I love that stuff. Like it's the aesthetics of it for me that I really love, but it is also, of course, associated with, you know, so much of the stuff that I loved to do. Like my kids love to decorate. We get down like the Christmas box and I have totally trained them to love it. And so much of that is influenced by my mom. What about you? Do you put up the houses?
I do. And it's like so interesting. Like as we're talking, I'm realizing like I put up the houses, and so much of why I do the houses is because it is this way to talk to my kid about his grandmother and to like bring her back to life for him, and to sort of like be able to bring him into that, into who she was and what she meant to me as a kid, who she was as a mom. And so like he really still enjoys it. And I know that will end one of these years, probably pretty soon, but he loves putting up the houses and unwrapping all the little miniature trees and the figurines and dusting everything with snow and all of that. And he really connects with the storytelling about his grandmother. But you know, if I really think about it, it's like, I don't know if it's something that feels really me though. You know, it's like, I think it's very rooted in these like childhood memories and this nostalgia, but I don't like hearing you talk about the aesthetics of it. Like I don't connect to the aesthetics of it. It actually kind of stresses me out, like having all this like stuff around, and it like feels unclean. Like it's just like these ancient houses that like rescued from my parents' house, and like, you know, the like dirty snow that we keep reusing every year, you know, it like, and then like the color palette is like also stresses me out. Like I have a very neutral household, and then it's like we're bringing in my least favorite color, which is red, and it's just, when I actually think about it, I'm like, this, like I don't actually identify with this aesthetic, but I'm like doing it very much out of this like wish to tap into these past memories, right? And so it's like, you know, I don't know if there's like a like, is there a holiday tradition that would feel more authentically me and actually feel like something that wasn't this like reaching back in time, but like actually felt like something I could own. But as you know, like cooking, baking, these are not my strong suits, you know? And so I don't exactly know what my things would be.
Well, you can do Christmas in any color palette now.
That's true. That's true.
I think there was a year my mom did like an all white tree. Like sometimes she would just like decide like we're going to get rid of everything that we have and have like I remember one year we had a red and white tree, which I don't again know how we afforded that because I don't remember that being like a good year financially speaking. But so maybe you just need to change your color palette. Maybe you need like an all white Christmas palette.
Or like a more like earth toned, like muted kind of vibe. I think I could get down with like the real like greenery, like lean into that. I could see kind of making it my own. I will say like the one thing I actually really genuinely do enjoy and it means a lot to me is that when we're in town and we're not visiting Christopher's family, we will try to do a Christmas Eve gathering or something around the holidays, bringing in either like the old school crew that was part of my parents' gatherings, the Berkeley family, and or like my friends and, this sort of sense of chosen family. And part of it is wanting to recreate that for Quinn because it meant so much to me as a kid, but it's also feels like very true to me now as an adult and what I value and what I want, like this idea of building chosen family and community. And so that I can own and enjoy very much.
Yeah. I love that. I always find that I tend to retreat into my like family of origin during the holidays for some reason. Maybe because we don't spend that much time together like year round. And there is something cozy about that, but also like it tends to be fraught, And
yes.
So I'll expect my Christmas Eve invite from you this year.
Yes, I got to do it now. I got to get it together. Yeah. I should mention that when we do these Christmas Eve gatherings, Christopher does the cooking. And he'll make these beautiful meals and I feel very incompetent. Like I feel like I probably should get over this and like find a way to own, like I need a good dessert that I can make and that's like, that's mine, like I'm really good at making X, Y, or Z thing. Right. So that's an area for personal growth, I think.
I disagree. I think you're totally fine. But I will say that I have worked very hard over the years as a mom to sort of specialize my holiday baking. And I think I'm probably at the other end of the spectrum of going way overboard. So Christmas morning, I make homemade cinnamon buns, and it's the only time of the year when I will actually like make the dough. It's not actually that hard. And honestly, like the kids find them too sweet but they still like love the tradition. They get so excited about it and then they'll have like a couple bites. And I'm like, why do I do this? I don't even know why I'm doing this. I a couple years ago started making a Yule log, like a chocolate roll cake. And I don't decorate it that fancy. Like I definitely don't do the whatever meringue mushrooms or
it's not Martha Stewart.
Fun.
Yeah.
Oh God, no. It's more like a Pinterest fail. It looks like that every year.
I love that.
But it's tasty. That. It's really good. I have a really good frosting that I put on the inside. And I do love doing it, but like I also do Christmas cookies. So my mom has a Mexican wedding cookie is like our sort of like, we call it our family cookie. I have no idea like how that started. My grandmother used to make them. And so I make those, and I used to make like, my former his family cookie, which was like a shortbread. But it's a lot. And every year I am kind of like, why am I doing this? Is this actually bringing me closer to my kids, or am I just getting like stressed out because I have like this list of things that I feel like I need to cook? I also like cooking like Thanksgiving stuff. Like I do like to cook, but it often very easily can go into the realm of just like doing too much and not really knowing why I'm doing it. So that is kind of a constant, I wouldn't say struggle, but it's like something over the years that I've been like increasingly mindful of. Like, is this really bringing me joy, or why am I doing this?
Right, right. Well, and it's hard to tell when all of these things are so tied up in these very emotional narratives around family. Um,
Right.
so we've kind of laid out all these different types of holiday labor. So there's cooking, decorating, presents, right? Anything else?
I mean, there's also like kids' activities, not just school stuff, but we go see Christmas lights every year in the car and I make hot cocoa for the kids. And some
Aw.
years we have like done it like last minute, like we have to go see Christmas lights or,
Yeah.
or the holidays will be ruined. And so that too can become like a stress thing. Then there's like magical creatures, which I think is how Eve Rodsky refers to them in Fair Play, which are a whole category unto themselves. So that's Santa, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit more, but also Tracy, Elf on the Shelf. Do we need to talk about the Elf on the Shelf? I'm going to guess that you do not do the Elf on the Shelf.
I don't do Elf on the Shelf.
Do any of your kids' friends have an elf? This is like boggling your mind.
I don't think so. I've heard of it. I do believe that Christopher's brother's family does it. I'm familiar with the practice, but I have never engaged in it myself. So I'm gathering that you do.
We do the elf, which may surprise some of our listeners. For those who don't know the history of the Elf on the Shelf, it's this stupid little elf that they sell everywhere. And somebody invented it. I don't know what, like right around the time I became a parent. So like 10 years ago. Immediately, all the progressives criticized the Elf on the Shelf because it was like surveillance culture. Like the elf is watching you to see if you're like naughty or nice and to see if it should bring you presents. I mean, do we need another little magical creature surveilling our kids? No, for sure not. But someone in our family gifted us one, which I can recall feeling very bullied into having an elf. But then we started using it, and like over time, like we just made it ours. Like it's not a surveillance elf. It doesn't determine like whether the kids are behaving or not. It's just like a cute little thing that we hide in different spots every day. We put it in like ridiculous compromising positions. Like sometimes we find it in the freezer and it has a little blanket on it, or sometimes it's like, brushing its teeth, and it's just like a cute little magical thing. But I feel like the Elf on the Shelf is extremely polarizing. So I'm hoping that we're not losing any of our listeners here by merely mentioning it.
Instant unsubscribe.
That in and of itself. Yeah, it's a lot of labor to even figure out like what is your Elf on the Shelf's ideology.
Totally.
So that's a whole thing. And then Santa and all that, and other holidays of course have other magical creatures like Easter Bunny and things like that. But there's also like just so much planning and scheduling that goes into the holidays. Also romance. I know we're going to talk a little bit about the hetero nature of the holidays, but like planning date nights and travel and the like, if you're married or if you're single, like that's a lot. And then of course there's hosting, which we know tends to fall predominantly on women. We should also note that women tend to get pulled into party planning at the workplace too. Of course, Thanksgiving is a big one.
Yes. And there's a lot that goes into each of these categories. Like with hosting, there's shopping, there's cleaning, there's communicating about gifts or no gifts, there's the guest list. There are things like COVID testing or like setting out expectations around whether people are testing, or telling people not to come if they have a sniffle, And then speaking from personal experience, there's having to facilitate communication when a guest tests positive the day after Christmas Eve, say, and you have to tell everyone about it. So there's a lot of admin, that comes up around just hosting a Christmas party.
So there's a lot in each of these categories. I mean, even just like the idea of throwing a formal holiday party, I find that so hard to fathom. I mean, when John and I first got together, we used to do an annual holiday party. I think we called it like cookies and cocktails. And it was fun. It was also like just an excuse to get wasted with like other PhD students. But you know, once we had kids, like just managing the basic holiday meals and events became so much. And to be honest, like I retreated into that nuclear family life. And so, you know, wasn't throwing big holiday parties for my community anymore. And then also add to that, like all the, you know, school activities and parties, you know, which we know women are volunteering for more often. And then there are like holiday cards, which I know some people take very seriously. Perhaps this is a polarizing one as well. You know, you have to remember to like order a custom card early enough. You have to like find recent family photos to put on it or take some. I know people do like the staged photo shoots, right? Some people even have that tradition of writing like those long family letters. I've had some extended family that do that, you know, like sort of updating people about what their family is up to. I feel like that is like a very like white upper to middle class tradition. And a really nuclear, like heterosexual tradition. Have you ever done holiday cards or holiday letters?
I have never in my life sent a holiday card. Ever. But I have received many of them. And it is so interesting to me because in so many ways, Christmas feels like this time of like proving yourself as a family. And it's like a sort of like, because oftentimes you're seeing family that you haven't seen in a while. And you're like, it's time to show like that you're doing good in your life, in your career, that your relationship is solid, that the kids are doing great. And so it's like this, we're all kind of like on display, and holiday cards are like the ultimate manifestation of that, especially when you throw in holiday cards where you have that kind of like year-long summary of like, this is what we've been up to this year as a family, which for the record, I do really enjoy getting those messages from friends because especially like people I haven't heard from in a while, it's great to know what they've been up to. But I do think that culturally, like it is this way of presenting the nuclear family as, you know, solid and healthy. I definitely remember even as a kid feeling pressure around needing to show my best self around the holidays, like that I needed to report back to family members, you know, that I was up to X, Y, and Z thing. And so things were good, you know?
Oh, yeah. So true. Yeah. Like definitely like showing that you've been productive, right? But you're also making me think of like the sort of fat phobia that surrounds the holidays too, right? Where like at least, again, you know, I grew up in LA, like feeling like your body's going to be judged. This sort of like, I, you know, love like holiday fashion and like getting dressed up and like that's always been fun, but that's not to say that it hasn't ever been fraught by some of those issues, you know? And then it also is making me think about how this also touches kids, right? Like, are the kids cleaned up? Are they like presentable? You know, that too can be like really present in sort of like, not even just traditional hetero families, but just in a lot of families, you know, because the kids are a reflection on, well, mom usually, but on the family as a whole. You know, we did do holiday cards for a while when I was married, when we first had kids. And it was not like something that I handled at all. I was always like, this is not going to be my thing. It was usually just like a picture of the kids like doing something cute and silly. And then we would just like get little postcards and send them out. My favorite one that we did was in 2021, New Year's 2021. We did a card of the kids jumping in a bounce house with like the cutest like big smiles, and it said like bouncing out of 2020 because 2020 was obviously like the year from hell. Well, little did we know like 2025 would arrive.
Buckle up.
But we could like never get it. Yeah, we could never get it together in time for Christmas. You know, my former husband is not a planner, so it like became a New Year's thing. And then over time, it just sort of petered out. But I also used to mail family cookies out, which is bonkers. Like, why was I doing that? And then somewhere along the way, like, I just gave it up. Like, it felt like one of those ways that I was putting pressure on myself, not just to be domestic and to cook because I liked it, but to perform domesticity. And I do still like make cookies. My kids and I will make cookies and bring them over to our neighbor's house, which I actually love as like a practice of just, you know, showing some holiday kindness to our neighbors and like connecting with them. But we keep it local, and I don't go to the post office anymore because that's insane.
Good. That is too much. It's too much. Yeah. I mean, the thing about the holiday cards that I wonder is like, who's keeping the spreadsheet of all the addresses, you know, and keeping track of where they've been mailed. And, you know, I think it's usually a woman. This brings us to presents. And I really want to zero in on holiday shopping. Research has shown that women are more engaged with Christmas shopping than men. Here is a quote from a study on holiday labor.
Okay, so women give gifts to more recipients, start shopping earlier. They spend more time shopping per recipient, spend less per recipient, and report greater success than men. Yeah, this like all tracks. Whereas men may take Christmas shopping rather lightly or even regard it as play, women appear to be socialized to take it quite seriously as real and important work. Yeah, again, though, it's like, of course. And, you know, because this is what I hear from like all the women that I know. And to be clear, it's not that women are better at shopping or gift giving.
No.
It's that they have learned this practice and they've learned the value of this practice. And, you know, it's also like, who is it likely to reflect badly on if your family doesn't have a nice holiday card or decides no longer to send out those cookies or give good gifts? It's not dad. It's not the husband.
Right. One thing I thought was really interesting is that men tend to be more involved in holiday shopping if they hold egalitarian gender role attitudes.
All of which is to say that typically holiday shopping is seen as women's work.
Yes.
But men with a more equitable vision of the world will see it as their work too.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's pretty clear why it's generally seen as women's work.
Right. Well, gift giving has to do with love and care, and it's associated with kids. But it's also linked to maintaining relationships with family and friends.
Yes. Yeah. It's what researchers call kin keeping. It's kin keeping work. And that is basically the work of maintaining close relationships. To your point about love and care, Christmas gifts are portrayed as a measure of love. You know, it's like, how well do you know this person? Can you get them something that they like? Are you willing to spend the big bucks to get it for them? Does it require you to brave all the Black Friday crowds to get it? Is it the hard to get item of the year that you have to jump through a bunch of hoops for?
Right. Gosh, yeah. I mean, I feel like I always have those questions running through my mind when I'm getting a gift, receiving or giving. But holiday gift giving has definitely become a sort of consumerist, commercialized version of that kin keeping work. Like, you know, you mentioned like the Black Friday crowds and, you know, the hard to get item, right? The high demand item. But it is kin keeping work nevertheless. You know, I also find the holidays to be really valuable, like in that sense of ritual and tradition of just thinking about a person and giving them a thoughtful gift, you know, someone who you might not see every day or all year. But of course, like given all of that, it means we really have to evaluate like what traditions we want to keep, how we go about them, what cultural attachments do we have that might not be reflective of our actual values, like to what I was saying about cooking. But it is still very human and to have these seasonal rituals.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking, it's making me think of these conversations I've had with my dad about, you know, the importance of holiday gifting and, expressing my desire to get a gift from him, just, straight up. And I think that his experience has been kind of like that he hates this obligatory sense of like, oh, you have to just like get someone a gift. And like he kind of descends, I think it sounds like, into almost a panic around like, what do I get this person? Like, what do they want? That it feels very vulnerable. Like, I don't actually know if they're going to like this. Like, and then he feels incapable, incompetent. It's like this very vulnerable feeling that he doesn't want to sit in, And I think part of that is, socialization and like, he is almost embarrassed by how bad he feels at it, at this kind of work of like intuiting what a person would want,
Yeah.
So, it's like, I feel so torn because like I can, of course, totally relate to that sense of like, I feel pretty jaded about like when I'm just getting someone a gift because I need to get them a gift versus that feeling that's so different of like you have something that someone is going to really love and it feels so meaningful and you're like excited to share it with them. And so I think all of us can kind of get trapped in that, like the commerce of it all and the obligation of it all versus like how wonderful it is when you can tap into something that feels very different and like genuinely joyous,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can remember as a kid really being excited to give gifts and just to see people's reactions.
Yeah.
And I can remember working really hard to try to figure out what I could get someone in my family, that would surprise them and that would put a smile on their face. And so it wasn't about spending the most money. It wasn't about like getting a Labubu or whatever. It was about really being thoughtful and really making them happy. And I actually remember having those conversations like with my mom about like loving giving gifts. Like I identified very young as someone who like loved to give thoughtful gifts. But I also feel like most of the women that I know sort of identify with that sentiment. And obviously there are ways we can trace this to our socialization. Women are taught to be givers, to show care, but also to sentimentalize like romantic gestures, romantic gestures from men, romantic gifts. But most of the women that I know like feel like gifts are also this expression of care and thoughtfulness. Like when we value that, it's not that women want something fancy or expensive. They want something often from partners who kind of like don't show up in this work, that shows that this person cares and understands us and, not like, what's the joke or the meme like, oh, I got a fucking toaster or like a vacuum for Christmas, because I'm a mom and a wife. And I know so many women who feel like that's a big issue in their relationships, that their husbands don't get them thoughtful gifts, but that they also don't understand that labor and they don't care to understand it. So that is,
I mean, I think we both probably feel pretty skeptical about the way that our desire for love and connection and strong social ties are exploited by the market at this time of year. But I also think it's true that like giving a good gift to someone, it can be an act of empathy, of like stepping into another person's shoes and, like really connecting with like what they enjoy and what's meaningful to them and what delights them. And like, that's so much of like the joy that I get out of getting gifts for my kid, for example, and getting gifts for Christopher too. Like I just find it so enjoyable, that like element of surprise, like just like being able to think of the thing that they couldn't even think of for themselves. And honestly, one of the things I love so much about Christmas gift giving in this period with my kid who still believes in Santa is that I will tend to give him gifts that he's asked for. Like Christopher and I will get credit for those gifts. And then I will like go out on a limb with the Santa gifts and get him something that he hasn't asked for, but I think that he will really enjoy. And so it's like a total surprise. And it has that additional magic of like, it's from Santa and Santa knows what I'll really like, you know? And I like, that's so fun, right? Like that's like such a fun element of it for me.
Right. It's so fun. But then you're like, it wasn't Santa. It wasn't the old white guy.
I did it.
It was me.
It was me.
But one day
one day it will all be revealed.
So you do most of the kid gift shopping for the holidays.
I do. And I will say like that's one like very gender normative like area of our relationship that's like very pronounced. And I think part of that is like Christopher's relationship to gifting, his family of origin sort of stories around Christmas time and that kind of thing. And I really, truly delight in it. I do not experience it as a burden. I find it to be very, very fun. And I think truly it's like that the surprise element of it is part of the magic for me. Like I love to be able to create that moment of surprise, the big reveals Christmas morning.
Right. I totally love it too. And I tend to do most of the gift shopping in the holidays, although when I was married, like we did try to make that more equitable. You know, my feeling is that like I love it, but then I need to be given carte blanche to spend whatever money I want to spend and not like, you know, be hassled with the like, it feels like we're starting to spend too much money, you know, like this is actually how much the holidays cost. And I know that's like a big source of tension in a lot of hetero relationships, you know, and there are definitely studies that show that men tend to see, you know, women's shopping as exorbitant, you know, rather than as necessary just because of the sort of gendered, you know, presumption there. But yeah, I enjoy like getting the gifts. I think what happens for a lot of women that I know, you know, is it's like if you're doing that and you're doing all the other things and you're volunteering at the school and you're doing the magical creatures and you're doing like the cooking and the baking and like it gets overwhelming. And, you know, I have 2 kids, so it's like it's double the work in terms of the gift stuff. And then there's the stockings, right? If you do the stocking Santa thing. And that's kind of a cultural meme now too, right? That like moms have to fill their own stocking, like, or they won't get anything.
Oh my God.
And how sort of sad that is, right?
Yes, it is so sad. And I've seen those memes like on, you know, the TikTok videos and that kind of thing of the mom doing her own stocking, or like the mom on Christmas morning who comes down and finds that hers is the one that's empty, which is just, oh my God. It's terrible.
It's so depressing. And I feel like that's really connected to like, you know, men not only not being socialized to do this work in the same way that women are, but also within hetero relationships, within marriage, right? Men sort of devaluing that work, which can cause a lot of marital conflict. Like if you don't see the holiday magic as valuable or as important or as that kin-keeping work, right?
Yes.
Then, you know, you're going to just think that your wife is like, you know, has a shopping problem, right? And there's actually a really big difference between, you know, going hard on Amazon Prime Day and like, you know, try, you know, which lots of people do in America, right? But, you know, trying to create a holiday that's filled with ritual and a sense of belonging and magic and care and thoughtfulness. It can be a fine and really confusing line, but there is a difference, you know. And I've seen like a lot of sort of progressive men kind of write off holiday labor as just capitalist, right? Like, and so I feel like that can be like a side door out for men. Like maybe we just like don't get the kids presents, or like we just like don't celebrate this stuff because it's just like, you know, it's all late capitalism. Like that just devalues women's work.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I'm thinking too now about like, you know, the male loneliness epidemic, as it's been called, and, you know, how it relates to this kin keeping work or the lack of kin keeping work, but also like that sense of engagement and investment in connection and creating joy. Like, again, it doesn't have to be overly, commercialized. It's not necessarily the like Amazon Prime like order, but it's like, not engaging with this stuff at all, with any of the joy creation and the kin keeping. How does that relate to that sense of loneliness, that lack of purpose and connection to other human beings?
Right. Like, why can't men just get like a little bit more joy out of the holidays? It's like Scrooge is like the, typical hetero husband. Yes, very much so. Okay, so let's dive into Santa now. I want to argue that Santa is the biggest eraser of women's work because mom buys the presents, she does all the work, but then this strange man with a beard gets all the credit. He is basically a myth designed to erase women. Women are the real Santa Claus. 100%. Yes, I want to agree with you. And I cannot justify why I have bought into this guy and let my kids believe in this horrible patriarchal myth. But let's discuss, because I would like to try to justify why I have done this.
Yes, it feels perfectly reminiscent of the heteronormative family dynamic. The mom does all this work to create a charmed holiday, a charmed childhood for the kids, and the dad so often gets to draft off of her work. She's overworked, she's stressed out. Meanwhile, he gets to be the fun dad because all those other fundamental needs are being met by mom.
Right. Even though she gets nothing in her stocking.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how real that holiday struggle is among the women that I know in heterosexual marriages. It was definitely something that really frustrated me when I was married. Something I also see in so many straight married dads is that they like build stuff on Christmas Eve, right? Like the new bike or whatever. So they do that grunt work, the like one time big project. But mom has spent weeks, maybe months, surfing sales, making lists, checking them twice, and who gets shit for the holiday budget? It's always the women who are seen as overspending frivolously. My kids still believe in Santa, as I have suggested. And I know there are a lot of progressive parents who will like not do that, like they feel like it's lying to their kids, or for one reason or another, they feel very strongly that like Santa is like a bad myth. It's like bad parenting.
I will jump in and say that like I do allow my kid to believe in Santa, but I will admit that if he asks me if Santa is real, I say, "What do you think?" And I will not say that Santa's real. So I have never told him that Santa is real. So it's like I feel like I have an out, Yeah.
Totally. I mean, look, Santa is like an elaborate story that we tell kids, and like that's how I do rationalize it. It's like it's an extremely patriarchal narrative, so maybe I shouldn't be justifying it at all. But always answer a question with a question, right? That way you are never actually claiming that this dude actually lives in the North Pole. It encourages critical thinking. Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to plant the seeds for my kids to think twice about the story, like once the jig is up. Like, I think my older daughter knows now that Santa's not real, but she's trying to hold on to the fun, which is like really sweet and telling. And I'm always, saying things like, why does Santa get all the credit? Like, do you really think Santa does all the work? Like, he just delivers the stuff. But I think Mrs. Claus and the elves are the ones that do all the work,
That's so funny. Yes, we also believe in Santa in my house. But I have tried to challenge the gender roles that are baked into the story. A couple years ago, I tried to engage in a little rebellious myth making with my kid around this. I told him that similarly, Mrs. Claus does most of the work, that Santa gets all the credit, but really it's Mrs. Claus who's behind the scenes getting it all done. I basically spun this false tale in an attempt to communicate a real truth about the world, which is that women are often behind the scenes doing work that is unpaid and invisible.
Right, right. Well, what I find so like interesting about the Santa stuff is that like a lot of stuff in parenting, it is this ongoing story that you're telling and you're always revising it and negotiating it, right? And using it to sort of like reflect back things you see in the world. Like when my kids grow up, I have no fear that they will not know that I was doing all the stuff for the holidays. Like there's just no doubt. I don't think letting Santa exist for them now is going to compromise that at all. I think they're already getting it. And as they get older, like they are going to learn even more about the gender dynamics. So like, yeah, the story of Santa is totally problematic. If you don't let your kids go there, like totally get it. Like the whole story is totally stupid. But, you know, when I was a kid, like believing in Santa didn't make me think that my dad was doing all the household labor. Like it was pretty clear to me that that was not happening. Like to me, Santa was like this feeling. It was like this emotional state. It was like the magic that we talked about. And like, yeah, it's so dumb that it's an old white guy who's like the spokesperson for that amazing aspect of childhood, you know, but I do it because I just want my kids to have that feeling, you know?
Yeah. Totally. I feel like moms too are creating the magic even when it comes to things like gift wrapping. I have a friend who has this childhood memory of her mom 1 year asking her husband, the dad, to wrap the presents for once. She left the task to him. He ended up waiting until they got home very late from a holiday party the night before Christmas. And he did wrap all the kids' presents, but he wrapped them with brown paper bags and blue painter's tape.
Of course he did. Did he not like acquire the wrapping paper and ribbon ahead of time?
I think so. I think that's the case. It became part of family lore. Remember that time that mom asked dad to wrap the presents and he wrapped them in paper bags and painter's tape? It became a joke. But these are the kinds of standard hetero jokes that you hear everywhere, from stand-up routines to, you know, family sitcoms about incompetent dads. And those jokes really just serve to naturalize women's roles as the doer of everything.
Yes. I mean, it naturalizes her as the doer, but it also makes it seem like her standards are too high. And like, I will like give that women's standards tend to be pretty high around domestic stuff, right? But that's because we've been socialized to do it. We know how to do it, right? And if he, you know, does this half-ass rap job, right, who is going to get the flack for it? You know?
Yeah.
Who's going to be embarrassed by it? Who's, you know, who is it reflecting poorly on? And it's not because she's too picky. Like, that's just like a half-assed rap job. This is actually, you know, making me think about how when I wrap gifts, I will, and this I totally inherited from my mom, I'll put a little note. So like, you know, if it's for like my kid, like my youngest kid, it'll say, you know, for your dancing feet or whatever. And they like read the note and they try to figure out like what the gift is, like for days leading up to Christmas. Yeah, it's like really special. And like I had such fond memories of doing that and trying to guess what was in the wrapping paper, you know. But that is something that I do, right? And, you know, something that the men in the family think is silly, you know. And just like the jokes about this kind of stuff I have no patience for anymore. I mean, if this guy was my husband and he wrapped the gifts like this, I would have divorced him. Like, this is why we have the term weaponized incompetence. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah. I think a lot of hetero couples find themselves at this standstill when it comes to domestic chores, and the fight starts to circle around the woman having standards that are too high. And it's like, why not wrap the presents in paper bags? And the husband will claim something like this as almost being somehow morally superior. Like, she's too uptight, she's too exacting. Paper bags get the job done.
Sorry if this is your friend, but paper bag guy is like, he's on my naughty list. I do not approve. But yeah, I have especially seen this come up in couples where the husband like prides himself as being like chill or progressive, right? Like, don't be so capitalist, babe. Like, relax. Like, let's just, let's just wrap them in paper bags with the paint tape. It's cool. It's kind of hip.
Yes. Yeah. And I think while these dynamics can and do happen outside of stereotypical gender presentations, like you could have a husband who is the more exacting one in a hetero relationship, I have anecdotally observed that in inequitable hetero marriages, which are most hetero marriages, men will often claim to have a less exacting eye or more relaxed standards, or even more benevolently, that she has a skill or a knack for it, basically as an out for doing his fair share.
Well, because women are born with the ability to wrap holiday presents well, and men are not.
I am a testament to that not
Tracy.
being true, because I still can't wrap a present to save my life.
And you were supposed to be born knowing how to cook holiday meals from scratch.
I'm a failure as a woman.
Which is why we love you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think we see this come up in conversations around cleaning as well, right? Outside of holiday time. Like, this is all very familiar stuff, right? And the truth is that, like, well, if a guy like barely picks up around the house, if again, he wraps a bunch of gifts half-assed, he will still be praised because he wrapped the gifts at all. But if a wife and a mother does that, she will be judged harshly. So, women are not only socialized to be good at this stuff, but to have those higher standards in these realms, understanding that these practices, this work, like a holiday dinner, as we're saying, or the cleanliness of one's house or the quality of one's gifts will reflect not only on her family, but on her most of all. And whether she is, a good wife, mother, or woman.
Right. Women are judged for failing to meet those standards in ways that men are not. So, of course, it's easier to be chill about these things or to tell women that they should care less about what other people think when you're not being judged for them.
Right.
So this brings me to a thought that kept coming up for me as I was researching this episode, which is that the holidays, and Christmas especially, basically are advertisements for heteronuclear familydom. It's not just the Furbies and Tickle Me Elmos that are being sold this time of year. It's the nuclear family.
That is such a millennial reference, Tracy.
I couldn't think of anything else. I was like, what are I'm just stuck in, I don't know what year that was.
Yeah.
2000? I don't know.
No. I think this year the hot gift is like a Labubu and
yes,
I don't know what else. Like probably some video game that I will not be getting for my kids. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're right. It's the dream of the nuclear family and the Labubu. It's the fantasy of love and coziness and security and safety and stability.
Yes. Christmas is part of the marketing arm of heterosexuality.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we're bombarded with also these Hallmark movie visions, right? Of white, cis, straight American families gathering around a turkey or a table or a tree. And, we're supposed to like return home, like to the the home, right? Either our home of origin or our new adult nuclear family home. Like the fireplace is going, the food and the gifts abound, and everyone has a cozy sweater. And it's just this time of joy and togetherness, right? Or it's supposed to be. And then women who are punished so much by marriage and the nuclear family already, you know, and by existing as the social safety net in America, are the ones tasked with the work of selling heterosexuality, you know, at the holidays.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And this vision of merriment and togetherness always stands as a contrast to the world outside. Not only the dark and cold and punishing world of winter, but also the competition and exhaustion of school and work and whatever else is going on out there in the world. And so we retreat into these cozy domestic scenes where ostensibly all of our needs are met. And that is really the sales pitch of the nuclear family, especially in a society without an actual social safety net.
Right. And it's hard to challenge these norms, like even by hanging with, you know, friends or chosen family, you know, especially when so many other people go and spend time with their nuclear families, you know, for the holidays. Of course, you know, we have kind of like newer, very millennial, again, traditions like Friendsgiving, you know, or you know, people gather together for holiday parties. But like if you just look at any typical holiday film, with the exception of a few new rom-coms that are like trying to break the mold, you know, there's usually straight love and family at the center. I mean, do we have to talk about Love Actually?
Oh gosh, I'm rusty on that film. I have never been a Love Actually kind of gal. So I need you to refresh my memory.
Well, you know that a lot of straight women like watch this movie every year. It's like a tradition, right?
I know that. Explain. Please explain.
Explain why. Yes. I mean, I have not rewatched it this season yet, and I would not at all say that I'm someone who's like, oh, I have to watch like Love Actually every year. Although to all our listeners who are, like, it's a sweet holiday film, like, so no judgment. But it is a very interesting tradition that many heterosexual women partake in. It's a much beloved film, and it's pretty good, and it's nostalgic. You know, it hits all the marks, right? But it's mostly about straight couples falling in love at the holidays. Okay. Although I always think of Karen, who is a wife played by Emma Thompson, and she discovers that her husband is cheating on her with, referencing our divorce plot episode, his hot young secretary.
Oh my God. And this is fittingly the only part I remember from this film, much like in our divorce episode, where the only thing I could remember was like the My So-Called Life threat to the family when the dad is like maybe about to embark on an affair. Clearly this is like a very compelling plot line for me. Yes, the hot young secretary.
Right. Well, and the way the Emma Thompson character finds out about the affair is so tragic. And it's sort of become like again, like a very millennial meme. So she discovers some jewelry before Christmas, and she assumes that it's going to be from her husband, and they're like having a tough time in their marriage. So it's like she's so excited to like get it on Christmas morning. But then Christmas morning, instead, he gives her a Joni Mitchell CD because she's like very into Joni Mitchell. And I do believe Joni Mitchell plays you know, in a subsequent scene, and it's very sad. But the jewelry, she realizes, is for his mistress.
Oh my God.
So then she like kind of gathers herself up and leaves Christmas morning and goes into another room and like cries to herself in secret, so she doesn't upset the children and ruin Christmas morning. Right. And that is what has become this kind of like meme online with captions like, I didn't realize like how much of marriage was this. Or, you know, I didn't realize how much of adulthood would be this, you know, mothers quietly suffering and crying in the other room, which is just, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about heterosexual marriage and how mothers, you know, maintain the nuclear family at the holidays.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, entirely. Jeez. Oh, that is so bad. It's so
bad.
bad.
It's so sad. And also, I think it was the scenes and the storyline were based on Emma Thompson's actual marriage. So there's that.
My gosh. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, yeah, unfortunately, it is realistic and it's clearly like struck a chord with a lot of women.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about how the straight nuclear family serves to socialize children into heterosexuality and gender roles, but so does the ritual of Christmas. Not to be conspiratorial, but all those cozy, pine-scented childhood memories are part of how we're brainwashed into monogamous, married, nuclear family life. Relatedly, Amanda, given the focus on nuclear family life during the holidays, I wonder how you are feeling this year, because I believe this is your first holiday season post-divorce.
Yes. I mean, it's the first holiday season not living in the same house, which feels significant. We to be honest, the last few holiday seasons were probably even more rough. But I think, I always fall prey to the romance of the season. Like, I remember wanting to go on dates with guys to like Disneyland when it was like all decorated for Christmas. Aww. And just wanting to be like kissed under the fake snow. So there's definitely like that part of it too, to like be single around the holidays can be tough for a lot of people.
That's totally. Yes. And I do remember that feeling in my younger years of the loneliness of being single at the holidays, which also I remember feeling very tied to that sense of like needing to kind of show off and prove where you had gotten in life at the holidays, like with all the family interactions, and being single was like a huge part of that, like this sense of failure of like, no, I haven't found love, I'm single, I'm alone, or like, if you're newly broken up, like that relationship didn't work out, no, we broke up, yeah, that's right. Over. And so that of course also ties to these hetero narratives completely.
Right, totally. And I feel like the tug of romance, but it feels different at this age to also just feel like the freedom and like joy that comes with being single, but then you like watch a holiday movie and you get like that kind of like nostalgic tug to like just live out the fantasy that's on the screen, but in general, like in terms of where I am now, like I have so few memories of holidays that are not characterized by a non-nuclear family. My parents have been divorced so long, so like my stepmom and my mom are friends and they hang out like every holiday. And it's not just me, like the nuclear family is on the decline in the US. I think something like less than 20% of all households in the US are nuclear. So actually nuclear families are the minority, and that is the lowest number recorded since 1959. So we can see like why the far right is so
panicking
about the nuclear family, panicking. But like when I think about the holidays now, like it's very kid-centered for me. It's very like cozy centered. It's also like really fraught by, trying to get to a state that feels like equal and, well, just partnered really with my co-parent, because we have such different ideas about like what the holidays are and should be. And then with my extended family, like my parents, there's always some family drama or fight, and like being divorced this holiday season, like I'm definitely nervous for how that's going to come up. And I know we're going to do a future episode sort of on that subject, but the holidays for me are like this mirage. Like I love them so much. I get so excited about them, but they're always kind of a letdown. And yet like I still get excited about them every year. And I think it's just that powerful fantasy of escape, like you mentioned, from the harsh world. But also like belonging that I just chase every year. But I think over the years I've started to embrace like that dissonance as kind of like tragically beautiful. Like I know now that I'm going to long for it to be a certain way and it's not going to go that way. There's something like kind of lovely about that.
Yeah, I totally relate to that sense of like this almost like beautiful ache. Like I think I've kind of arrived at that in recent years, especially with the like dead mom stuff. It's like, I'm like, I know it's going to be hard. Even if I forget every year, like I come back around to realizing like, oh yes, this time of year is inevitably so hard and fraught, and kind of like leaning into the ache, the longing, right? And there is some beauty to that. I totally agree.
And part of that ache and that sense of grief and longing has so much to do with how shitty the world is right now.
Yes.
Like my kids know that I'm obsessed with Stevie Wonder's Christmas song. I don't know if you love it as much as I do. It's called Someday at Christmas. And like just thinking about it like makes me emotional. Like it makes me cry like every year. Because it's all about like the whole song is like this fantasy that like someday at Christmas there will be like no war, there will be no violence, there'll be no conflict. And that kind of longing has become like a really big part of the holidays for me. So when I feel that sort of comfort and belonging and sense of family, it always throws into relief, other families and other people who don't have that, and I'm trying to really build that more into my sense of the holidays.
Yes, I love that. Speaking of holiday songs, I wanted to do like a quick react on your part to some of the problematic Christmas songs that are out there. Are you ready?
Yes.
Because there's like the hetero politics of it all. It's a lot.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I think I'm ready.
Okay. All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, the song of the season.
Oh my gosh. Starting off with a bang. Okay. So this is like my family's Christmas song. Me and the kids like point to each other, right? All I Want for Christmas Is You. And it's basically just a joke now, like how much we listen to the song and how ridiculously over Mariah'd the season is.
Yes.
What is your take?
I love that. I mean, my take is Amanda, she is not decentering men.
Not at all. No. But if you point to your kids, well, then you're just centering your kids.
You've totally changed the meaning. Yes, which is oppressive in its own way.
You can point to your neighbors. You can, you can point to everybody.
Yes, just point at everything.
Just keep
all
pointing.
At once. Yeah.
You get a Christmas song. You get a Christmas song.
Okay, Baby It's Cold Outside.
Yeah, this is a no in my house. It's the date rape song. No, thank you.
It is the date rape song. Yes, it is. Okay, I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus.
My take is LOL, and every time this song comes on, my kids are like, you could see their little brains firing. Like, what is going on in this song? What am I missing out? And also, it should be Daddy kissing Santa Claus. For all the reasons we've discussed on this episode.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the lyrics are kind of like, it's like suggestive of like an affair or something, like mommy is kissing some other man.
Oh, I never read it that way. I love that take though. That's a great interpretation.
Let us never listen to that song the same way again.
You know why mommy is kissing that Santa Claus? Because her husband wrapped the presents at the last minute with painter's tape and paper bags, and he's not been pulling his weight this Christmas. Yeah. So now she's getting with some guy dressed as Santa Claus.
Some guy dressed as Santa. Exactly. Some guy who's actually invested in creating holiday magic for children.
Exactly.
That's attractive. Okay, Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. How do we feel about that?
I mean, gross. We love this song and totally rock out to it, and me and my kids. But yeah, I mean, Santa. It's just more Santa stuff. Why is he watching us?
Yeah, it's a little peeping Tom. Is like, that's my feeling. It's like a little bit like, he's creeping on you. He's like peering in the windows at night, but maybe that's just me.
Well, the surveillance culture critique still stands. I do think a lot
Totally.
of the Santa stuff is
100%.
the panopticon.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Okay, last one. Santa Baby.
Oh my
The sexy
gosh.
song.
I have such a history with the song. This is my mom's self-proclaimed Christmas song.
Oh, funny.
I don't know how much I can get into this other than I think that kind of says it all, right? It is. For people who don't know, it is the sexy Christmas song, and I kind of love that my mom has claimed that for herself. But it was weird when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's such a great kind of emotional download on your mom. I'm like, okay, got it.
Mm-hmm. If you're listening, sorry, Mom.
We love you, Mom. You created all the holiday magic, so
It's true.
okay. I want to end on a deceptively simple question, which is, what might it look like to reinvent holiday traditions so that they aren't a sales pitch for hetero marriage and nuclear family isolation?
Yeah, I'm thinking of that line from the artist Muriel U. Kelly's well-known feminist manifesto on care work. She says, after the revolution, who's going to take out the garbage? And it's like, after the revolution, who will play Santa?
Yes. I mean, clearly an old white man wouldn't get all the credit for the most magical time of the year after the revolution.
That's a good point. There probably wouldn't, well, there wouldn't be holidays, but there would be, after the revolution, there would be like ritual, right? And like seasonal, reflection, and like, I'm all about the pause. Like, I love that too about the holidays, but like not in an individualistic way, right? Like, where are we as a community, as a culture? Like that kind of reflection and connection. The rituals of connection would still be there.
Yes. I mean, I do really like this idea of the pause, but also this, I mean, I will very much be spending time with my little nuclear family at the holidays, but the idea of us using some of that time as a moment of reflection to think about how we actively want to engage with expanding beyond our little nuclear family bubble and continuing to build our connections to our community, to our sense of chosen family. Like, how do we want to think about that chosen family? Who are those people and why are they our chosen family? And how do we want to invest more in that network of people? How can we better show up? How can we really, sort of put our money where our mouth is in terms of our belief in community? I'm always talking about community, like more community. And it's like, what does it actually look like to invest in that? But really the idea of having those conversations as a family, I think, is a lovely way to push back on some of that Christmas messaging.
Totally. And like, to use the journalist Catherine Goldstein's term, like deep casual hosting can be part of that, right? Like more just having friends over and mixing families. We've started to do like just inviting other kids over to like watch a holiday movie, and it doesn't have to be a whole big thing. I always turn it into a big thing and like want to cook them like little holiday specific stuff and decorate it. But there's no need to do that. That's just, I just go overboard because I'm a pick-me, Tracy. Even as a mom. But like those kinds of like little gatherings. We also cook, like I think I mentioned, we also make cookies for our neighbors. And the kids will go over to the neighbor's house and drop them off. And they really like to do that independently now. And sometimes they'll write a little card. And that's just a really nice way to like stay connected to our neighbors.
Yeah. I love that. That's really sweet.
Something that we are also trying to do now that my kids are a little bit older, in the spirit of exactly what you're talking about and thinking about like how can we, kind of give back, or how can we, be aware and present with those in our community who don't have what we have, is like volunteer work, so literally going to feed, community members, at like local shelters and resource centers. We do every year, we like do a box donation that like a local resource center collects. We are also recording this as millions of Americans face losing benefits through SNAP because our federal government is totally inept and wants to see people suffer. This year I am really thinking about how I can incorporate like getting my kids involved with, feeding our local community members. And this is something that we have done before. Like every year we do a big box of canned goods that we donate to a local resource center, and the kids like decorate the box, and they help, we go to the store and we pick out all the things that are on the list, that the resource center creates. They've also been really talking about how they want to like go in person and feed families, which there are like some issues with doing that with kids now, like post-COVID. But we are always like looking to, do like actionable things in our community. And I like to make that work as visible as possible with my kids. Like, even if it's just helping, one of our neighbors who, is underhoused or homeless, like on the street, like we hand them, water or whatever. 'Cause I really like my kids to be able to see, like what that work looks like.
Yeah.
And of course, it's also facilitating really big and important conversations about what is going on in this country, what we have that other people don't have, and then what responsibility we have to really organize our lives, in a way that acknowledges that privilege, and not just gives back, but like we actually participate in our community.
Totally. Yeah. And I know that we're going to include a link in the show notes for donations. So definitely go check that out. We will give a few different options of ways that you can give at this time. On that note, I think we're going to end. Please go follow us on Instagram at Dire Straits Pod. You can follow me at Tracy Clark Flory on Instagram, and Amanda is A Monty. That way you can be sure to not miss any Dire Straits news. Another way to support the pod is by subscribing to our show on Substack. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can find us at direstraitspod.com. Also, we would love if you would review the pod, give us 5 stars, let us know that you appreciate what we do. And as always, a paid subscription is the best way to support this podcast. It's a very thoughtful holiday gift.
It's exactly what we want.
Happy holidays.